to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to do roll call. I'm sorry.
Here. Roy Dalton here. Kathy Gregory.
Here.
Russell McAllister here.
Got a 7 again.
Louis Nichols.
Here.
Pete Price.
Here.
Sandy Simonich.
Here.
Dwayne Trotter.
Here.
Mark Barnaby. Here.
Would you ask the, would you identify each one of the members for the Beautification Club? Does that mean? I know I'm charged, but you know.
It's even a totally different microphone than we normally use.
Yeah, please identify each one of the club members.
All right. Sandy Stevens, former chairman of the Beautification Committee.
Sandy Spence, president of the Beautification Club.
Can't hear you.
Can you pass the mic down, please? That's it. There.
Sandy Spence, President of the Beautification Club. Deborah Best, Secretary of the Beautification Committee and the Beautification Club.
Karen Baker, member.
Joan Frierson, member and temporary treasurer.
Kathy Handy, member.
Barb Braun, and I do advertising.
Julie Hall, member.
Cheryl Coppins, member.
Kathy Rocky, member.
Barbara Smith, member.
Okay.
Okay, I am going to withhold public comment at this time until future information can be diverged here at the meeting. At the end of the meeting, I will have public comment, and you will be limited to the customary 3 minutes of what we usually have. I have asked District's Council, Mr. Mark Barnaby, to be here to basically keep me in line and do any clarification for any future items that might arise from this conversation. I do want to set up some ground rules. I would only like to have one person speak at a time. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand so I can go ahead and recognize you, and we'll go ahead and make the statement. I'll get you in a minute. I do not want any derogatory remarks. And what I do want to point out is there's been numerous text messages between board members and the beautification members in a club that are subject to the Sunshine Law as well as the public records. If and should you have any of those, please do your snapshots and turn those into the office immediately. A lot of them have already been turned in. Just to give you some background with the Beautification Committee, it was formally established back in February of 2008. The committee was empowered to design, to provide recommendations to the Board of Trustees for the betterment and, for the beautification and the betterment projects using donated funds from the Sunshine Beach Walkway and other fundraising or donations dedicated to the district. As a standing committee, the trustees, as a standing committee of the Board of Trustees, all members of the Beautification Club are subject to the Sunshine Law until the revision of Trailer Estates Park and Recreation PP8, which was the Beautification Committee charge. The committee had no authority to expend funds prior to the board approval. In March of 2022, the policy was changed to give the committee up to $500 that had to be discussed at a Beautification Committee meeting, and then it did not require any board approval. That revision also authorized them to restock the boutique inventory up to $2,000 without any pre-approval by the board. On March 21st, the standing committee resigned and expressed their desire to become a club. The reasons for that resignation was to prevent any possible litigation between the Beautification Committee as well as the Board of Trustees, so we wouldn't have any sunshine violations. This meeting today, these things. This meeting today is in no way to diminish what the Beautification Committee has done previously. They have raised thousands of dollars for this park, and they have enhanced numerous projects for us. On behalf of the, well, I'm going to go on behalf of the trustees, but on my part, I want to thank the Beautification Committee for everything that they've done. They've done a lot of effort and gallant work to raise funds for the park. With resignations, all funds and assets maintained by the Beautification Committee were to be turned over to the park. And I want to emphasize all funds. Due to the transition from a committee to a club, several questions and procedures became, and accounting procedures became relative. The district, as everybody knows, is under strict accounting rules and is audited every year. A determination had to be made of which accounts and donations were being put into various categories. All assets of the Beautification Committee and the Standing Committee of the Board belong to the district. At the March 21st board meeting, questions were asked of the prior Beautification Committee treasurer to provide various documentations. Questions were raised regarding the amount of funds, the previously approved projects, future projects, and receipts. The current, I don't know if it's the current now or not, you said temporary treasurer? Somebody did?
For 2 meetings.
For 2 meetings for the club. Okay.
No,
No,
no.
for the community.
For the committee. Okay. Anyway, the current beautification treasurer notified the Board of Trustees treasurer of some possible irregularities regarding the club funds. Certain comments were made which raised serious questions, which leads us on to today's emergency meeting and fact-finding. I'm lost. Fact-finding. With those questions that were raised and some discussions that were made, it would be remiss on this board, and especially myself, not to do any follow-up action on the comments that were made. With that, Mary, would you start your conversation that you had?
Yes. On the April 4th meeting, I expressed some concerns about the inability for me to reconcile some of the accounts and understand what went into them. At that meeting, it was decided that I would meet with Les, and he would be able to provide for me the details that I needed. I had some family issues. I was never able to connect with Les, and I regret that. But I was approached by the Beautification Club treasurer. As she watched the board meeting video, she had some concern about events and needed to speak with me about them. I was consumed. I wasn't able to actually connect with her until Wednesday, April 6th, and I have a documentation of the conversation that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. I said, Julie called and had some concerns. She shared that at the club meeting on March 23rd, she was handed 2 envelopes of cash to be included with the membership dues collected for deposit into the new account once opened. She questioned the source of funds and was told something along the lines of never mind. After watching the April 4th workshop and my questions regarding deposits that I could not identify, she knew she had funds that belonged to the park and wanted them out of her house. She shared that the club president and vice president would be picking her up in the morning to go to the bank to open up an account under the new club name. That evening around 9 p.m. I stopped by her house. While at her house, she shared she was nervous about telling the president and vice president that she had given the money to me. She also shared that during the committee meeting in 2021, the topic of gifting Mark Yarberg $500 for his retirement was discussed. When she expressed her concern that using district funds for this purpose, it was decided that $200 would be removed from the cash box in the bingo kitchen and given to Mark. I shared that they would most likely not be able to open up a checking account without a tax ID, would need to register with SunBiz, unless one would be willing to use their personal Social Security number. She shared that after a trip to the bank to inquire about opening an account, she told the same, and she shared that, was told the same and shared that with the club. And it was mentioned that if needed, they would use the park tax ID. I thanked her for her honesty and left her house with $538 in cash. She retained the membership dues collected. On Thursday, she shared that when the club president came to her house, she informed her that she would not be going to the bank and handed her the membership money. Shortly after, the club vice president returned to her house and asked where the other money was. When she informed her that it had been given to me, as it did not belong to the club, she was asked why she did that. Events were starting to come to mind at this point. I was informed that post the first club meeting, $60 received from a neighbor for the purchase of three t-shirts from the boutique were taken to Karen Baker's house. She shared that Karen Baker was the caretaker of boutique sales. At that time, Karen thought she had given her money related to the sales at the club meeting. Karen went into her house and came out with an envelope of money and stated that she remembered she was told by the club president to keep that money and use it to buy teacups for the next year. She did not know how much money was in the envelope. Since last Thursday and Friday, several text messages have been sent from club officers to club members, including one that accuses me of deleting all the messages between us. How would one know if another has deleted a personal text string? What was the desired result from directing suspicion on me? The entire text string between myself and the club president and the club treasurer has been downloaded from my phone and entered into public record, as well as the point of contact statement I just read to you, which has been signed by both parties. I want to thank Julie for her honesty and her willingness to come forward. We are in a place of extreme concern. I would like to ask the club treasurer if she needs to correct anything I've stated today, or if there's anything else she would like to add. Thank you.
That was on April 6th.
April 6th is when I picked up the $538. It was April 7th when she shared her her interaction about the $60 collected for the t-shirts and the money that was being held for the purchase of teacups for a 2023 event.
And then I just want to report that on April 8th, I met with Karen Baker as well as Sandy Spence, and we went over a few topics, and I'm not going to read this thing verbatim, but Karen Baker, through these numerous text messages from the Beautification Club, started thinking that if she had any additional funds, and what we did come up with was an additional $357, as well as an additional $110, which ended up being $110.50 after we recounted it. There was also a mention of Kathy Hardy being approached by Kathy Gregory regarding 50/50 sales of the last dance. Is that was the last dance? we
That
tried?
was March 2016.
That money, the club raised the $78.50 sales. That money actually belongs to the club
Yeah.
since they were
Yes.
now a club. Do I have that part right? In fact, I had,
She's already turned the money into the office.
yeah, and I should do that. At the end of the meeting at 9:05, Karen left me with $350 plus $110.50, which has already been deposited.
So the total amount that has come forward since Monday's board meeting questions was over $1,000.
Over $1,000 on that.
Yep.
So with that,
We have to
please.
see.
There are several reasons that money kept trickling in. Obviously, we kept selling more T-shirts until Karen and I went over to the gift shop and there was a padlock on the gift shop so that we could not open it to sell any more shirts. At that time, we were in the process of going to box it up after I had spoken to Mary Chandler and get it back to this board. So that is what happened there. As far as money that was left for it to go to the bank, quite frankly, there were certain bills that were still outlying that had not been paid. We had had one meeting. We had had no direction, and we were waiting to see how things were going to shake out at the next meeting. We were in transition between treasurers, and we actually had absolutely no intentions of keeping your money. To be quite frank, I can't even believe we're being questioned like this. I think you all know that we have given you money in the past, and $1,000 is nothing in comparison to $50,000. On that note, I'd also like to speak to a few things. I did send Mary Chandler a text message that I did forward to the entire Beautification Club because I believe in open transparency. During that time, I brought to her attention that it was our understanding that we could spend up to $2,000 without a vote. Thus, the reason TJ gave me your charge card. Do you want to hand that down to him? And told me I could do that. At one point you said it was $1,500, at one point you said it was $500, then you said it was $2,000, and during all this discussion between our committee, we had our liaison there. So as far as the history cabinet goes, that's why we have the history cabinet. We thought it was a lovely gift to provide to the community, and that's how that came about. I do have some other questions that I'd like to ask all of you, unless you would like to go first.
No, I want to make a comment on all of that. During my tenure as the Beautification Committee person, the chairperson, the money that we collected for bricks, people brought right into the office, right? The Rose Garden money, I took the Rose Garden money after the Sharecraft was dropping it, and I was in the office at the right time, and I said, I think we could take that over at the Beautification Committee, and we did. We had a meeting, we voted, and now we for years we've been doing the Rose Garden as far as the paying for all the stuff that goes into the Rose Garden. Money never really was a problem. I mean, whatever came into the park, donations from, we got many, many donations over the years from our wonderful people that live in the park. And all that money would go into the office. All the money went into the office, and it still did. When we resigned from the board and started the club, it was a transition. And during that transition, all this money came up. No one said we were going to keep it. No one said that we were gonna, I wanna say, screw the park. We weren't doing anything like that. We were trying to regroup. We were trying to figure out where we were gonna open an account, how we were gonna open that account. And once we opened that account, the plan was to write the last check to the board. Period. And start all over again. And I'm sure most of the people in this park realize, and it was a very, very hard thing to leave the board. Okay? When we first started. But being threatened with the sunshine law scared the hell out of everybody. And I mean that. Even me. And I never was threatened by that in all the years that I maintained chairmanship. Never thought that would ever happen. But with all the things going on in this park, at that time, and I'm going to mention the fire department, all that stuff going on put a fear in a lot of the members. A lot of the members. There was so much scuttlebutt going on. So when they made the last decision to resign, I resigned with them. Because I believe we could do just as good as a club as we did a committee. Now, as far as the money goes, in my mind, we had to regroup it all. It was here, there, everywhere. And once we got it all in that checking account, plus we didn't even know we were gonna open the checking account because there were so many things going on. We would sat down and said, we owe the park X amount of dollars, write them a check. And that. We didn't want it. There was no trying to keep the money. There was nothing in my mind keeping the money.
So why didn't the money just go to the park? Why didn't it come to the office? Why would it ever have gone into a bank account in the club's name and then write a check? Why didn't it, the second that money was realized that it was earned as the committee, it should have been immediately taken to the office. It had no business ever going into the account.
And you're absolutely right.
And the money that was told to be kept aside and used to purchase teacups, which was earned by boutique sales, the second the boutique sales, the money came in from the boutique sales, it should have immediately gone to the part here to be deposited. And then if there were bills outstanding, it should have come to the office for those bills to be paid out of that money.
So as far as t-shirt sales goes, after we resigned on the 21st, we had no guidance in regards to the t-shirt money. Therefore, we kept selling shirts. She kept getting calls, and she kept the money. As we meet as a committee, or as a club, we were going to all discuss that. So that was the only reason. There was no malcontent whatsoever.
So at one point, you thought the money that you had sold the t-shirts from after you resigned was club money, even though the t-shirts were purchased by the district. Do you think this is the...
I did not know that. I had gotten no direction from the board or anybody.
For that matter, no one.
But you have a committee president, you have a vice president. They were told on numerous occasions of when the committee ends and you become a club, that the assets, including the funds, are all of the district. That was, did you give any direction to your members saying, hey, we are now a club, and that money should be coming?
Yeah.
But I did not know I had this envelope of money. You can't imagine how upset I've been about it. What happened was, at sales, the 300, the two envelopes went. One envelope for the three, remember I came over, that was the big one. And what happened was, in March, at the end of the sales, I tried to give it to Les, he wasn't around. So I took it and I put it in my jewelry drawer so it would be safe, okay? I've had some family things happening. I did not even think about beautification money or anything. It was in there. So then after the texts were given, I went to bed, that was like what, at Wednesday or something. So then Thursday night, I'm like, I wonder if there's any money in that drawer where safekeeping drawer, which I had kept it for less when if I couldn't contact him. Lo and behold, there was money there. And it wasn't for teacups, it wasn't for anything. I have bought teacups, I have bought stuff that's in that thing. Okay, so as soon as I saw that, I was very upset. And the rest is reported. I brought it to Dwayne. Now the other money, the $110.50, which I didn't realize, after we disbanded, I feel the club, the committee or the board didn't give any direction. I was waiting for someone to tell us, what do we do? So someone wanted tumblers. So I got 2 tumblers and I sold them for you. You know, full meaning to give it to whoever it went to. I didn't know if it was club or not. I was selling it for the park. Club, committee, I'm new on this. And so then someone wanted, I think it was Julie, someone wanted t-shirts. So they wanted size medium, and I'm like, oh, we have a bunch of them left. Let me get you one in each color. And went and I got them, gave them to her, and then she returned the money to me. Now the money I think you're referring to is that $110, if you think it's for teacups. I didn't know what to do with that money. I would have brought it, had I not brought it to Dwayne, I would have brought that money and said, here it is, it's yours, I guess, or ours, or whoever's. I don't know. You didn't hide money. I'm sure we've all done something and you forget where you put something, you know? So that's that.
Just with the statement that I'm seeing here on the report of contact or the documentation, it just says, Karen went into her house and came out with an envelope of money and stated that she remembered. She was told by the club president to keep the dollars and use it to buy the teacups. Can you see where that becomes highly suspicious?
That is, but that's not.
I'm gonna ask anyone sitting up here, that is a law.
Well, that
That's
Julie,
what's been reported.
Julie signed an oath saying that that was the conversation that she had. And I don't think she would have signed something saying that that was not a true
Okay.
conversation.
So can you see where
Even-
that's highly
I can see
suspicious?
where it's suspicious, I understand that.
One thing, when we became a club, we said we will continue giving the money that we raised to the park. All we wanted to do was get out of the umbrella of the sunshine law. Stop being thrown under the bus by angry people. And I don't know why they're angry, but that's exactly what is happening. We're being thrown under the bus, threatened with the sunshine law. So why wouldn't you people want us to continue on working hard as we do and giving you the money? That money, if it went into the checking account when we opened it, because sometimes banks have a limit to open a checking account, it was yours. It was your money.
I hope you can see how this looks to me, who's responsible for accounting for every single dollar that takes place in this park.
Please hold your comment.
And I'm finding that there's money that was taken out of a cash box versus deposited into the office here and given as a gift. That's inappropriate use of funds. I'm finding that there were envelopes.
Now, what Mary's referring to is Mark's retirement. You had came to me and asked to donate $500. I absolutely told you, no way can the park donate funds to her retirement.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, I have $200 that came out of the kitchen, which was taken out of the kitchen.
Which is still park
At the
money.
time, I didn't realize that that was donated, no. I
Well,
would have to disagree.
So that's a red flag, that's a misappropriation of funds. To have money that was taken in from any point of contact, 50/50, concession stands, boutique sales, whatever, and have it not given to the park immediately upon collecting that money, it sends up a red flag for me as a treasurer, okay? I have
Mary,
laws
all
I have to
season,
follow.
all season, we had trickle-in money to you the whole entire season. One day we would turn it in the Dixie because it was either ticket sales or boutique sales.
Yes.
So it was never coming in on a consistent basis. So, you know, to be threatened that we were stealing it.
I'm
it's
not,
No,
I never,
that was
ever,
never-
Well, that's
I
how it
said
comes
it
across to
doesn't,
us.
it doesn't, it looked,
What we're doing here is a fact.
How did it
finding.
look?
it looked
It's
like
suspicious.
you had money that you knew you had earned as a committee, I'll be honest, and you were going to deposit it in a fund account, into the club account. There was, to deposit it into a club account and then write a check to the district makes no sense to me. It's always been district money. Why wouldn't it have always been turned over to the office? And the only money that should have been deposited into your club account when you opened it was your membership money. And then any money you earned as a club thereafter. The fact that there was any cash anywhere that was going to go into a bank account in the club's name, no matter how long it stayed there, is inappropriate use of district funds.
And when was that explained to
I
us?
was just gonna say that.
Well, when was that explained
No
to
one
us?
ever explained any of that to us.
I mean, I'm just curious as to when you had
Well,
explained that to us.
I guess my problem is, you didn't earn it as a club, why did you think?
That's not my question. There are a lot of, dissolving a club, a committee and moving over, there are a lot of things we're dealing with. Our liaison was at all of our meetings.
I don't understand why the
What
board
I'm
wasn't
saying
represented. I
is, we
can't-
had no
I can't-
guidance.
No guidance.
Please.
I have a question. You just made the statement that money trickled in all through the year.
Correct.
Why all of a sudden is there $1,000?
I guess it's on, I don't know
That's what
what.
I've been saying.
No, we have her.
That $1,000, Lori, to be quite honest, we turned thousands of dollars in the whole entire year.
All right, so
That's a moot
now
point.
trickle is $1,000?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well,
Well, it
go back
doesn't
and
matter.
look.
It doesn't-
I can show it to you.
It doesn't matter if it's $100 or $1,000 or 10,000, it's not viewed any differently in the laws that we are required to follow as far as how we account for district money. Okay, I signed an oath when I became a board member. I have laws of the state of Florida I have to follow regarding accounting of district funds. A portion of district funds was going to leave the district.
Right.
And go into a personal bank account. I'm the one that will be held responsible for that, okay? So I'm coming forward and asking questions about where certain deposits are that I can't find. And what I'm finding out is that money is sitting in people's jewelry boxes and it's being told to deposit in club accounts. And I'm like going, oh my God, I'm in like big trouble here if anybody finds out about this, which now the whole world knows, so.
Yes, they do.
we-
And
the
I
park's
did
gonna be
send
in
out your
trouble.
text message to the entire club because I did not have any money, so I wanted to see who had money, who might have been sold something. Because Karen has a team that sells for her.
So you didn't know Julie was given an envelope full of money at the club meeting?
At the club meeting, I saw Les hand her something and I saw Sandy hand her something. I didn't pay, honestly, I paid no attention. And then Julie sent me a snapshot of monies that I just glanced at because my family was in. I had no problem when I went to her house and picked up the membership money. And Sandy asked me, where's the other money? I said, what money? I don't know what you're talking about. That's when she said, well, she had more money. So I had no clue about that. Now,
And she was given that money as a club. When that money went over to her, we were a club.
That $538 over and above the membership dues was club money?
We switched over to club at that time. So
But the $538.
some of it was in the kitchen. I usually put in, well, this month here with $203, $200, $100. You gotta remember supplies are taken out.
The
And I have
supply
all
should be
receipts.
paid for by the office.
Well,
Money should
you
come
know
into the
what?
office.
The office
money
never
should come
told
out.
me that. I've been doing this for a long time.
As a club president or a committee president, you have certain responsibilities, and I would think that you would want to research some of the responsibilities without having to.
There was a conversation about this.
You know, if you guys make the rules, you need to tell her what to follow.
We don't make them, they're written already.
Well, then we need a copy of them.
They're
I mean-
they're in the deed
Okay.
Here we go again. That, we were having procedural problems with reimbursing a committee member.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I don't have a microphone that works. Sorry.
Talk louder.
All right, there, at a board meeting, there was a conversation about, sorry, I lost my train of thought. About reimbursing individuals for payments that were made, and there was a whole discussion about, using the charge card out of the office.
Well, they gave me the copy.
And that's when that started. And so whatever date that happened is when you were made aware that it was inappropriate to spend personal money and that you were supposed to be running everything through the charge card.
And that's what I did.
So when was that you got that copy of that charge card?
I got the copy for the, district annual, the district annual.
Okay, you got that then,
Yeah,
but Sandy, didn't you use the charge card before that?
no, I did not.
No, wrong Sandy, sorry.
No, I did not.
Sandy Stevens.
No, I did not. Never. I think,
She didn't even have it, I
I
had
never
it.
got it, I don't even know. I think when, Bill went to buy the Christmas trees.
Can you put it on the mic?
Oh, sorry. I'm a little vague on that because they went to buy Christmas trees. We voted $1,000. We voted $1,000 for a Christmas tree. And I know him and, Julie went and bought the Christmas tree. I don't know what they use. They deduct the money from our well, I think Bill puts his number on it. Like I said, no one ever sat down and explained anything to me or anybody else. And I'm gonna put this back on the board. If this happened, it's the board's fault.
I have a couple of background questions, just to maybe seem out of context at this point. What was Les's official title, position
Treasurer.
of the committee?
Treasurer of the committee.
Okay. Then the next question I have, who threatened you with the sunshine? You keep saying you were threatened with the sunshine.
Yes. On, we had a meeting with Mike Sansoni and Mr. Barnaby. They came in and explained all the rules to us. I believe that was in January. And they shared all the answers and questions that we asked. And we all became very nervous, and I could tell immediately most of the committee members were going to resign at that point. As soon as the meeting was over, they all resigned. When I asked Mike if we could become a club, he pointed his finger at me and he says, "No, you cannot." I asked Mr. Barnaby, could we become a club? And he said, well, possibly. That's exactly what he said, you could be.
Okay.
So as the meeting resolved, later on that afternoon, we met and everyone wrote their letters and resigned. Because to do our job properly, we are in the event planning, fundraising meetings all the time. We have several women on this board who speak a lot, talk a lot. And we did not want to overstep and jeopardize this board when someone came after us to get to you.
Okay, my comment is, having the rules explained to you is a little bit different than being threatened that way. So I think a little bit of.
When I don't know where you got that term threatened, we were never threatened.
You
said
it.
Actually, several people said it.
We were
Yeah.
worried, we were worried that we would be threatened.
But that was the term used, so we're clear, so we'll move on from that, but that's what I was curious, is where that threat came from. And then the last question I have is, you made a comment that you can't believe that the board doesn't want you to continue working for the party. Who ever said that?
I did.
Well, that's different than you saying.
No, I said that because of the way we have been treated. I feel like we have been obviously accused of what we felt like we did nothing wrong. We had told them that we would appear seamless and work hand in hand with them and give them every dime going forward. We said that when we resigned. I said it to Dwayne on Friday. I said we would give them money the first and then pass it on to different clubs. We have said it. I can't even tell you how many times we said, we will give you the money. But no one on this board seems to understand that was what we had planned to do. Now, I'll be quite honest with you. There's several sitting up here who think they don't want to give you a dime right now. And I'll tell you why. Their feelings have been hurt. When you lock up the pop-up shop like we're thieves. What was that about? I mean, what was that about, Dwayne?
Again, once you resign as a committee, all the assets, including the cabinet, the inventory, and everything else becomes property of the park.
So you did not want it
There
sold?
was no discussion of you guys continuing to sell the items out of that. It was just
Well, there was no
okay.
discussion that you were going to lock it either.
Well, we don't have to get permission to lock it, it's our asset.
Yeah, but working with us on.
Oh, boy.
Again, we're being made out to be the bad guys because we're doing our job.
Well,
We're
we
doing
feel
our
that
job.
way as well, Mary, just so you
Yeah,
know.
and I'm sorry, and, you know, I'm sorry that it's not obvious that everything that I have here for facts doesn't say what, I mean, anybody that reads it, it says what it says, and it wasn't your intent, but it says what it says. I mean,
Well,
there-
you
there's,
can all
there's,
believe what you want.
there's, okay.
Based
You know,
based on the information that the board have received, we have to take action and do fact finding to find out just what is true and what is not true.
But I understand that, but you've
So
been
I'm not
dealing
really
with
accusing you of what I'm doing.
$52,000 over the last number of years, and you're talking tens of that.
That doesn't matter.
So
One
let me just
dime,
ask a
$1
quick question,
is
because
all going to be
we
held
need to
against the
resolve
board
this
of
and move on.
trustees.
We have a few questions how you want us to handle things. The first question is, how do you want us to handle 50-50 when one of our club members is asked to sell tickets? Do you keep the money, or do we keep the money?
As a club, let me get clarification from Mr. Barnaby, but as a club, correct me if I'm wrong, that money, 50-50 sales would belong to the club.
Okay.
As a committee,
So we're not a
it's the
committee.
park.
We're not a committee. We're a
Prior to is the park.
So you are saying the money taken at 50-50 at an event that Kathy may ask us to work at belongs to the club?
absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely, that was never questioned.
Now, things that come into question are the concessions.
Okay, let's talk about the concessions. How do you want that handled?
That's why I have Mark here.
And Kathy, Andy, this is your time to talk about this.
I have a question, Dwayne, before we make decisions like this. I need to know in my heart, are we going to reseat another set of individuals and continue with the beautification committee? Because if we are, then I'm uncomfortable saying I'm gonna transfer some of this responsibility over to a club. I would leave it under the committee that would be a newly formed committee.
That's another question that
So
we can.
I can't begin to answer those questions until I know the answer to the first question.
So at this point, the 50-50 is, we just won't collect it, we just won't help.
Is it,
Is that
is
correct?
this on?
Yes.
Because I do know that on March 26th, and I do apologize, I'm not a good 50-50 person, sorry about that. But I did help Kathy Gregory when she asked me, and we were a club at that time. And I went around and I collected a meagerly sum of our part of $78. And, you know, Kathy and I do work well together, and I even, you know, asked about giving her that money, and she says, no, you're a club, you take the money. I took the money home, not sure about it, felt uncomfortable, but I took it home. But I knew we were coming here today, even though I was a club, and I felt like we were legit. I want you to know, I turned that money in this morning. Even though we were a club, I turned it in, I have the receipt,
Yep.
that money's in the office.
Yep.
And And I also told Kathy, I will never collect 50/50 again for this park. No, I won't.
That's club money,
But-
that definitely is.
But I'm not good at it anyway. Sorry. And I think moving forward, I think we will be better served to be a club so that we can serve not only the board, but the other members of other clubs to help them, so that if we want to give contributions once we, make money, so that we can help the horseshoe group, the other members, the Christmas group. Because as we work as a committee, we haven't been able to do that. And that's really what we want to be able to do, not only beautifying, but being helpful, because that's really what our, part of our goals have been. And I think we need to look in a positive manner as we look forward in the future.
Like any other club in Trailer Estates, certain items are provided to clubs with the understanding that it still belongs to the park. For example, the wood shop has tools and a place to meet. The Wii Bowling has a room with the TVs. The shuffleboard clubs are given approximately $3,000 a year for their courts. On that note, the Beautification Club would like the use of the pop-up shop and to have a meeting area. The small hall has already been requested in writing on PP 39 for this opportunity. However, considering what has transpired, I want clarification on that.
I'm waiting for clarification. You've asked for the same time that the committee already has reserved, and I can't give you committee time until I know that the committee has been disbanded. Even though they don't have members, I can't give you that time, so I'm in a holding pattern on that, waiting for an answer.
Okay, so
You've
let's
been
do
identified
this.
as a club, I have recognized the paperwork as a club, and I have done the reservation for a date in January, something with a home or something.
Yeah.
That's been taken care of. The other stuff is I'm stuck in a holding pattern waiting for direction from the board.
Right.
So I can't tell you can have those reservation times because they're already reserved.
You know what, so let's do you a favor. Let's cancel those times on Wednesday.
In writing.
In writing, I'll be happy to cancel those. And we'll come up with a different date with you. That'll be more convenient so that in case you need that time for
I would like, Val, make up your mind what you're gonna do about a beautification committee. Because that puts us in a different light.
That's
No.
not what it does.
Have
No,
it
no.
put in a different
No,
light.
well, we have to work with that beautification committee. No, you wouldn't.
No.
No, I don't mean that, I don't mean, in other words, you'll be pitting yourself against us.
No, it's just that the beautification committee now has no members. It's up to the board to resolve or to replace people in the beautification committee. You are now acting as a club, completely separate, since you've all resigned. That, there's no question about
I
that.
know,
Mark, sorry.
Mark, I heard a rumor, and I'll just say it that way. No, I'm sorry. Can I turn it on yet?
You're on.
Yeah. I'm on? All right, I heard a rumor. That clubs, that we as a board cannot accept donations from a club.
No, that's not this.
Okay, so that's a bad rumor. Anybody else who's heard that rumor?
So then we
Bad
can give
rumor.
you money.
Yes.
Let's be careful what we do here. Generally, yes, you can give them money.
Okay, now, back to, so Lori, we resolved the issue about the room, we've got that straightened out, well, get a new date. What about our working tool of the pop-up shop? Can we have that? Just like the wood shop has their tools.
Boutique.
Boutique.
Cabinet,
Because we're in the process.
utilizing the cabinet.
Yeah. You can have everything you want that's inside it. However, I had suggested, if you wanted us to sell it, I had mentioned this to Mary, if you wanted, because we are honest, we were going to sell it for you and give you the money.
Yeah,
Not the prop-up, we were going to give you the cost of the shirts.
Okay, with that, I was going to add that to one of the workshops for the next April 18th meeting to discuss, do we want to give the puppet shop back to that? The inventories at cost, there was several different things. Pending the outcome of what we were finding today, I'll make that decision later on. But right now, I don't have.
So you-
Now I don't have.
So you will
an
let
answer.
us know at some point?
Yes, I will.
Because we'll go ahead and purchase another one, another cabinet, when we get, well, I'm sure we'll have someone donate money to us and help pay for that. But I thought if you're not using it, and you do let the other, you let the bocce ball use their equipment, you let pickleball use their equipment, and since that was part of our committee that my husband put together for over 3 days, that I would think that you would let us use that piece of equipment. Okay. A few other items here. I just wanted to state that it came up in the board meeting about the Motown dance. The Motown band, I had requested a $500 check be mailed to them for back in January prior to us resigning, at which time I had honestly forgotten about it until Mary brought it up at the meeting, at which time I realized I need to get a stop payment on the check, which I did. I spoke to the band, explained the situation. They've worked with us. Motown is great, and they are so happy to be here again. And I said, I will foot the bill for the $500 until, because I know I'll be paid back by the club. So on that note, since you don't want to contribute to the $500, I take it you don't want any of the profit of that dance as well.
That would be club money.
Okay, the question is what we are raising, all of our money is going back to this park.
The money you raise from that, you will make a decision as a club what you want to do with it. I assume that people who are buying tickets thinking it's gonna come back to the park.
Oh, it's all going back to the park,
So
one way or another.
That will be money.
We will hold
earned,
on to no money, club or
and-
committee.
And you will come to the board with what you would like to use that money for, and we will.
No, in the past, we've asked for wish lists
Wish lists would
from
give-
Dwayne, who graciously gave us one.
Yep.
And that would be the intent.
Yep.
For that to work.
Yeah.
There's
Doesn't
another
change.
question on that too, who will pay for the maintenance setup and tear
We
down?
will. And just so you know, Pete, for the first 5 years that we did this, we always paid maintenance. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't have to. No one's ever told us, so we went ahead and paid it.
We never had any, and I'm not
And we
saying you
tipped them.
guys, but we never had any guidance from the board,
From the past board.
for the past boards. Never,
So let's
ever.
clarify that.
Pass it.
Because we certainly, we're all humans and we want to work together. And little problems like this and things that we have to talk to each other about and everything, we're not actually doing anything to y'all
No,
or
I agree
about
with you,
y'all.
Rod.
We
The
just
only
don't
thing
want to
that-
get in trouble ourselves
No, I
from
know.
the sunshine.
I went up to the board, and I think most of you could say that you remember this. and that-
Can't hear, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I always came to the board at every meeting and I talked when it was my turn. And anything we had in the works that we were voting on, I would get permission from the board that we could go on with the project we worked on. Everything we did, from the palm trees back there to the fountain out there, we got permission. Never did anything, not one thing without permission. And we would get the permission, which was beautifying the park, that was our job, and we did it. So all this here is not fair to a committee that has broken their butts beautifying this park.
It's not about you breaking your butt. It's not all about y'all breaking your butts, which I'm sure you do. We do too. Learning the deed restrictions, the bylaws, the charters, the sunshine law and all that, it bothers, at least it bothers me. I don't know about everybody else, but we're in the same boat. We're governed by the government to do the things that it says in our bylaws, our charters and all that. We have to read it constantly and make sure we're doing it. And clubs and committees are all listed in there where you can educate yourselves. I've had to educate myself on a lot of stuff because I open my mouth and get in trouble pretty fast. So it's not about crucifying people. It's about justifying the money and how the clubs operate and everything according to the rules, the way they're supposed to be done. And it's not, we're not crucifying anyone. I mean, nobody here is being crucified, or the police and the sheriff department for legal stuff. But honestly, we're not here to jump on y'all. We're just here to clarify where the money went, how it was spent, and make sure our audit goes fine to cover us. We're the park. We're not, it's all the park's money. We are the park. We're not just 8 people right now sitting up here. We're part of the park. And honestly, you've got to ask yourselves, I've never received a call from anybody. Sandy, yes. But honestly, you could call me, and if I don't know it, I'll find out. And if I don't know that, then I'll spend the money to call the attorney. And that's the only way we can operate.
Well, give me an example of what you're just
Microphone.
Call you
For what, Russ?
Any question you had? If you thought you had a doubt about anything, you said you didn't know about the Sunshine Law, or you weren't sure what the committee was, because you, obviously, nobody in the past has ever sat down and written you a sheet of paper and told you what the committee is supposed to be doing, or what the laws are with the committee, until Mr. Barnaby came in and spoke to you all about the Sunshine Law, which that scares the hell out of all of us. We're the same as you. I worry every meeting that whether I'm gonna say something wrong, or I'm going to say something to one of my board members about the park that gets me in trouble. So we're in the same boat. Don't let that scare you. It's just the law. And as long as you abide by it, then it comes out fine. But remember, we gotta figure out, for the auditing purposes and for the park's money, where it goes and all that.
It went all back to the park.
Good.
It's all back in every penny.
And so
Except
we don't stop.
my money that I have to deposit for the kitchen, my profit. I do that twice a month. Now, I keep all the receipts for the purchases that I have to buy to replenish. So, you get the money back. No matter what we do, you get the money back. Now, you're getting this money back after we're a club. And I'm still bringing it in to the office. Well, I have to give the money back to the board because they haven't decided what they want to do about bingo.
No, listen, if the, oh God, this is horrible. If the soda and the chips and the candy bars and all that stuff were purchased before March 21st, then any sales proceeds from that is park money. If you bought candy bars, sodas, chips after March 21st, any proceeds you make from those sales are yours. This is the club versus committee stuff. There's a hard line stop on March 21st when you resigned. And technically, what should have happened on March 21st is an inventory of every candy bar and can of soda that you had in that kitchen. Should have been done, and then it starts fresh. It's the unfortunate part of splitting between a committee and a club. It's just the business of it. It's the it is, I have to report the assets of the park, the district. I don't have to report the assets of a club. But anything that happened before that is part, and I'm responsible for reporting all of those transactions.
But we haven't decided what you're gonna do about bingo, the park taking it back or what?
Bingo has nothing to do
That's
with the kitchen.
different.
No.
The kitchen was run by the Beautification Committee,
Yeah, right.
and now there's no committee.
Okay, I got it.
And it looks like we probably should have Mr. Barnaby run through a club description, or at
Well,
least
I'm
a
gonna
lane.
get to that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, can we do business at this meeting?
No, other than this right here is the only topic that we can discuss.
So, can we dissolve Beautification Committee at this meeting?
Not at
They're
this meeting.
dissolved.
They're dissolved.
No.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They
I see
have
what you're saying.
resigned, I have members signed
They're abandoned, they're not dissolved.
but no, that has to be discussed at a regular
So you
board
can't do a
meeting
motion
to
this meeting.
dissolve.
Okay, that's my question, because I wanna move on, I'm
Refill.
tired of this. I mean, they wanna give us money, we wanna use the money. I just can't imagine that this reasonable group of adults can't resolve it. And I think we understand that there were some discrepancies that I don't think anybody here thinks that anybody was trying to steal the money. But I would like to, I think that's the first step, is to decide what they're gonna be. And that, to get rid of the Beautification Committee.
They've already decided to be a club. They've been approved to be a club. The only thing that's outstanding is for the board to either fill or dissolve the beautification committee. The funding was in question on some irregularities. That's where we're at today. I think we pretty much hashed out where those funds are at. What I'd like to do, if you don't have any other questions, is, go ahead.
Let me just summarize what went on. For all of you to know, our money has gone through the office for 3 years. Mary and Les worked together to put us on a QuickBooks system, which is the one the office uses for their accounting purposes. So our money monthly goes into the office, and Mary helps Les, or maybe Les does it independently by now. But this is a report we get at our monthly meetings. It mirrors what's available in the office. It goes into the TE bank account, not any of ours individually. It is registered with the office, and it can be gotten by anybody, okay? So we are not a committee that just had a little bank account somewhere or a pickle jar somewhere putting our money in. We were an official accounting process while we were committee. So when we resigned was on March 21st. We had our first meeting as a club on March 23rd. Now again, we are not professional committee and club people, but we're just trying to keep the ball rolling for the sake of the park and our events that we had planned for next year. So that was on March 21st, we resigned. March 23rd was our first meeting as a club. We discussed a lot of things, mostly membership, how to get money, since we knew we were starting out with a zero balance. At some point we would. In between time, we had requests to sell shirts and tumblers. So we went ahead and did what we had been doing for 6 months, actually since last year. Then on April, and in between, our treasurer of the club did speak with Mary. There's a lot of she said versus he said. It probably would have been better if the treasurer, who had concerns, really sat down with the new president and said, I'm concerned, and had a discussion about it, had a good discussion. Because as a club, we can have discussions without having a whole full meeting. So that might have been a good step, but it ends up being a whole lot she said versus she said versus she said. So remember that. So anyway, by April 4th, which is only 2 weeks from the time we resigned, was when Mary had her concerns. And yes, Mary is responsible for making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed for our budget. But we're talking 2 weeks of quite a change in process, and we're still selling things. We're still taking money in and not having any place to put it yet. So to expect perfection of people that are still also trying to be retired and still trying to, in the transition process, it's like any business that changes. You have a car dealership that changes owners, and there's 50 cars on the lot, and in the meantime, before the new owner takes over, if the old owner sells 10 cars, that old owner is expected to get the profits from that 10 cars. That's understandable. But the new owner then just gets the inventory for the next 40, and that becomes theirs. It's a little bit like that unclearness, that gray area for us now. But just realize we're only talking 2 weeks, and some maybe missteps in communication. But Mary, we do understand you have to dot your I's and cross your T's.
Julie would like to say something.
Julie?
Yes, can you turn the microphone back?
Julie?
on March 21st, well, I'll just jump ahead. On the April 4th board meeting, Mary was talking about, I haven't received any bingo money or any other money for quite a while, okay? And then Les said, what do you want to know that for? So that got me to thinking, wait a minute. We quit, we resigned on the 21st. We had our meeting on the 23rd, money.
So, okay, so let's talk about what a committee is. A committee is what you appoint, you, the board, appoint. If you're gonna, if they're not working under your guidance, direct guidance, where you appointed them, it's not a committee. So, the club, you can, and with a committee, you control who's on that committee and who's not on that committee, and they have to comply with the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Act, which is what we talked about with the old committee before they got up and quit. So, the club, you don't have that control, and you know, like the committee is part of the district, and therefore their assets are yours, as we've talked about ad nauseum up to this point. So, with the club, that is different. The opportunity for the club to operate independently of yours. Now, everybody needs to understand that, you know, some of the controls that are on the committee would not be on the club, but they can operate outside of the assumption they can operate on their own, as any other club could do. And you're not going to control who the members are and how they spend the money. Okay. Secondly, in regard to events that you're having, if it's a district event, the district rules will apply. If it's a club event, then the club can do what they want, they just have to reserve the room or whatever. So, and the rules are a little different depending on which one they are, so we just need to make sure we know what kind of event we're having. To that, I'm going to caution the board, if you ask for the club to help you in a district event, the district rules are going to apply. Make sense? Okay. So with bingo, if you really want to talk about bingo, so I gotta look because you know lots of people look at bingo. We can now do bingo in the park as the district. We are not subject to some of the requirements that might apply to state law. We are unique in that regard, and that's good. There are requirements that we have that are pretty much set out in the charter as to what we have to do. And trying to find it right there. We go. Conduct bingo. Provide the proceeds shall be distributed to players in the form of cash or prizes after being deducted for actual business expenses for such games. For Articles 4 and essential to the operation, conduct, and playing of bingo. And we can also do 50-50 raffles as a district. And 50% of the proceeds will be distributed in the form of cash or prizes. And we have to have it on property that we've owned or leased for not less than a year. We have probably the most lenient bingo and raffle, or 50-50 raffle requirements in the entire state, frankly. We can do that if we want, or we can but if we raise that money, it is district money. We are subject to the district restrictions related to that and spending of that money. If the club runs the 50-50 raffle, they're subject to state law, they are subject to requirements related to, how that money is spent and how it's collected and where those meetings are going in there. It's a fairly extensive list of requirements. But they could do the 50-50 raffle if you want to do them. Just keep in mind, you're subject to those state laws. So, that help answer some of those questions?
Did I get it straight that if the district runs 50-50, we're subject only to our charter, not to the Florida state laws at all?
That's correct.
Okay, but if the club runs 50/50, then they're subject to the Florida state laws?
Yes.
If they run it on behalf of the district, are they still subject to the Florida state laws or to the charter?
If they do it as a district operation, they would be subject to our laws. But that, you know, I know one of the issues is where does the money go to? We, for example, here's where I think your question came from. Can they give us money as a club? Yes. Can we give money to a not-for-profit? No. And that's where I think some of the confusion came from. So, that we aren't not authorized to give money to a not-for-profit.
So that, what I just heard you say is that we need to stop doing Mothers Helping Mothers bingo?
If the district is running the bingo, that is correct.
Right now, Mothers Helping Mothers is running the bingo. Is that appropriate?
I think you could also operate under the state law. If you want to operate under state law as you have been, then yes, I think you can do that. That's because we have our own separate rules now if we want to take advantage.
Right.
So we held accountable, we as a park, which that's who we are we held accountable for the laws when we operate bingo? Or if a club comes in and operates it, are they, you're saying they're under different?
You are responsible for the laws if you're running the bingo.
The district.
Right. If the club runs the bingo, then they're under the laws. They've got to take care of the laws as they go.
Under the district laws?
No,
Or
no,
the state laws?
they're under the state laws.
What are some examples of the state laws that the club would be required? I don't know what they
There's
are.
a whole stack of them. I mean, it's a fairly long list. It has to do with giving money, for example, what was being done with giving money to a charity and that sort of thing. Somebody being on site, where they can have it's gotta be on a public property.
Do they have to be a 501c3 as well as be registered with Sunbiz to be a club to sell, to do those donations?
I honestly can't tell you that right off the top of my head. I don't know for sure. I know it has to go to a charitable organization. If they're giving money to, it has to go to a charitable organization. It's recognized by that. Not one place.
So if someone is acting as a volunteer to run bingo under the district, then they're only subject to the charter.
That's,
No.
it's a special act. We have special requirements.
No.
And I guess another question I have is, with most of the board departing to go back north, can continuing recreation assign a member, a resident, to run bingo during the summertime and still fall under the parks?
Because if the district is running the bingo or the 50/50, yes.
So
It doesn't have to be a board trustee.
Okay, so I don't really have to have a club run bingo. I just need to set up a group. That help people?
Yeah, but I prefer to have a club running if possible.
That's understandable
Because
too.
I'm not gonna be there.
Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Be on the board. There's no
Right.
cake left.
And that's a factor the board's gotta consider and, you know, because you wanna make sure that whoever's running the bingo has been doing it properly, if it's gonna be a district function.
Yeah.
If it's a club function, you have less concerns about that, but understood.
Well, where that would be a question then, as a chair, can I meet with the club determine if a club is going to run it or if the board is gonna run it without breaking the sunshine law?
Yes. You,
As long as I don't have another member.
correct. It's when two of you get together that all trouble breaks loose. No. Then you have potential sunshine law issues. Now, and I want everybody in this room to understand a couple of things that most of you, some of you do know that, but not all of you probably do know. The district was sued about 10 years ago now, for sunshine and public records violations. It was a major suit. It cost the district $1 million. So we're very sensitive about that issue. We could never quite get them to settle at a reasonable amount, and we ended up winning on 157 allegations of violations. Okay, so it was a fairly expensive thing. We did end up winning that litigation. It was a very good day for the district. We have also, but speaking of things that have happened in this district, I don't know why this district has some of those.
Mark, excuse me, but if you'll hold your mic out a
A
little
little bit further. We also have been threatened by the sheriff about 6 years ago for running bingo. And we're told if we ran bingo before we made some adjustments, they would come and arrest us. So we're sensitive about that issue as well. And that's why you hear some of these questions. It's kind of an unusual thing, because people, for some reason, some folks, they just want to make sure we're following the law to the utmost degree. And so we try to do that. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does happen. And so we got to fix it when we do. So we are sensitive to a couple of those issues, in particular, probably more than most other places around it in this area.
Dwayne, as their liaison representative, I would like to commend the committee or the club now. You'll never find more honest people that have an honest heart that want to work for the park. There is nothing in their thinking that they are going to get rich over a few dollars. Nobody wants the money. They only want to work for the park and do the thing for the park. And as far as this money, it's here. We will get it put in the place where it belongs. There's no problem about that. Where it's the hard working people. And to try to accuse them of something that's not true breaks my heart.
Accused, but what it was really of fact checking to see just what occurred. I don't think I have ever said, Sandy, I'm accusing you of stealing on the Beautification Club.
What you did say is, it's all about your reputation, Sandy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like,
It is.
So where's my
It's the
reputation
same as-
and my job as the board treasurer to make sure that things are accounted for correctly for every single resident of this district, who has to have the books audited and be held accountable to the auditor, that funds have been accounted for correctly. When I find out that there's $1,000 that didn't get deposited into the office, it was held in jewelry boxes and in envelopes. And all I'm trying to do is get to the bottom of that and understand where it went and why it wasn't deposited, because I'm ultimately responsible for that. Where's my reputation when you're sending the text to the club and telling them that I deleted text messages to make me look bad, that I never deleted in this? Where's my reputation in
Well,
here?
when I went back to the thread, Mary, it was gone. Now, whether it went up too high or something, it was deleted.
How would you know it was deleted off my personal cell phone?
You can go back into Google, it directs you the way of how you can tell how things have been deleted.
I never deleted anything off my cell phone. It was downloaded and entered into public record, and it's still there today.
Well, it should be.
And it will be.
And I actually have a copy of it as well.
Right.
And the only reason I addressed you, quite frankly, was that I was trying to be very kind by offering that we would do this for the board, sell that for the board.
I understand.
And that fell on mute ears. You did not understand what I was saying.
That did not fall on deaf ears. I, as well as other people, were balancing a lot of personal issues besides everything that was being brought to my attention. but to accuse me of deleting text messages makes me look like I'm trying to hide something. And I don't understand why you would feel the need to tell people that I'm being deceitful.
The reason I felt that way is because I felt exactly the same way by the text messages I received from you. It's basically touche.
Okay,
All right,
I
the
don't want
text
to keep
messages are
going back
public
and
record,
forth.
so
But-
they were never meant, I'm sorry,
I'm
but
sorry,
I know you don't want to talk about this anymore. I signed up to be the treasurer. I signed up to be the keeper of the books. I didn't sign up to be, when I'm told to do my job and I'm trying to do my job, to be told I'm resigning. At this point, I no longer be a member of this board. I didn't sign up for this, and I'm not going to handle it.
Okay, Mr. Barnaby has to leave, but what I want to do is say to the club, are there any other funds that are pending out there anywhere? And then two is, once we get this meeting complete here, as I would like to meet sometime this week with the club to determine exactly what the club would like to do for the organization or for the district. I don't know if there's any comments. I can go through the public comments now. If you have those, I think you've got a lot of shared information on just where the board stood as well as where the Beautification Club stands. Joe? And again, I'm going to limit people to 3, if you can. Mr. Barnaby has to leave. Thank you.
Joe, can you hear me? You can hear me? Yeah. Okay. Joe Carey, 1803 Wisconsin Avenue. I'm sorry to see Mary get upset like that. But I was also witness this week to Beautification Committee members being really emotionally upset at the way they've been treated. And I want to start by saying that someone on the board had mentioned that it was the past board that dealt with the Beautification Club. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me, but Dwayne, Mary, Lori, Pete, and Sandy have been on the board for at least the past 4 or 5 years. So they could have been some kind of a direction given. It's all about optics. The beautification optics, how people see things, how they're perceived. When they want to switch over to a club, the Beautification Committee was concerned. I'm thinking, why? All they want to do is just change their name and continue to do all the great things they've done for this park. I never imagined we'd be sitting here discussing this, talking about padlocks, suspicion, mistrust. In the past how many years were soda cans and candy bars documented? No. What's that about? They've done so much good for this park. And now they're being dragged through the mud, no matter what you say. Fact-finding? No, this ain't fact-finding. This is just smearing people who worked so hard for this park. It's really terrible, absolutely terrible. You talk, and if anyone has any questions, I'm sorry, go to the April 4th YouTube meeting. If you need help, I'll help you. But board members, for example, said, why don't we just get a group of individuals to sit around a table and talk about some great ideas? Like that's all these people did? You've seen them in this park, how hard they work. What group of people is going to sit on a beautification committee under the board and do what these people have done? None of them. So you can call this what you want. But I'm really curious, the board members that are sitting here, how do you really feel about what is happening? How do you feel about what these people have done for this park? Because it just seems to me there's just a couple of people that weren't happy. And that really bothers me. Really, really bothers me.
30 seconds, Joe.
So all I can say is, I've sat here and I've listened, and I am not happy with how these people are being treated. No matter how you want to dress it up, as fact-finding or anything else. It ain't fact-finding. I don't know what it is, ego, pride, but it's sad.
Any other comment? Ladies, please. Any other comment? No, the mic's there.
Dottie Dearwester.
Yes.
Dottie Dearwester, 1804 Ohio. I think it's a shame that we even have to be here today. The board policy has been in the past, when issues are brought up, it goes to a workshop, discussed, whatever needs to happen, a workshop, before it comes to the trustee for decision. On March 21st, there were 2 different topics that were brought up as part of the trustee board meeting that were never brought to the workshop, which I thought it should have been to the workshop, which would have been last Monday, I believe. I think a lot of these issues could, as well as procedural, whatever, could have been discussed during a workshop and not had to come to something like this as an emergency meeting. So I'm disappointed that that didn't happen. I encourage the trustees to follow your own policies. When you have something that you need to make a decision on, bring it to a workshop so we can have a discussion and we can have comments from the public as well as whoever's bringing that topic. The other thing I wanted to say, and I went and talked to the attorney before he left, during the bingo discussion, their term was used, run by, versus sponsored or park event. I think that's confusing, and I went to talk to the attorney about it. Run by means whoever is coordinating that event that night. And it can be a district bingo game, park sponsored bingo game, and you can have somebody from a club or whoever coordinated for that event. That doesn't make it a club event. It would still be a district event. So as we have dances, some are district and some are not, as I understand. So I think it's real clear when the policies are set, is it a district bingo game run by the Beautification Committee, the Computer Club, whoever, or is it a club-sponsored event, then the rules apply. Thank you.
Gordon Elton. Gordon Elton, 1804 Ohio Avenue. I think with the benefit of hindsight, we can see how a variety of things could have been done differently and should have been done differently. However, it still comes down to the bottom line of needing to follow the rules. The suggestion that the Sunshine Law of applicability to the Beautification Committee was news in January of this year, I don't understand how that could possibly be the perception, because many times I've heard and been part of discussions that included references to the Sunshine Law applying to the Beautification Committee. There's any number of times that the board had made it clear that the Beautification Committee was a function of the board, and all the rules, including the Sunshine Law, applied to that committee. So anybody that got on there should have known that they were subject to the Sunshine Law. The board members certainly know it very well. I think that it comes down to the willingness and interest in following the rules. And the perceptions of impropriety or whatever, you can't get away from that, because people will draw their own conclusions, and many of them, as we all know, anybody that's looked at Facebook knows there's lots of erroneous information out there. The question is, can we move forward from here? The members of the Beautification Committee need to remember we're not part of, or the members of the Beautification Club have to remember it's no longer a committee. The board will decide if there will be a committee or not. But you as a group need to remember And the idea that you have to have your own bank account and whatever is something very important in that. And the question for the board I had, the attorney made the comment that a park could not make contributions to a nonprofit. I would guess most of the clubs are not technically established as nonprofits. They're groups of people getting together for a common purpose. And does purchasing of supplies for those that are used by those clubs, is that a problem? I belong to the Hand and Foot Card Club. The park, under the recreation program, buys the decks of cards for us periodically, or they need to be replaced. Is that still okay? A very simplistic and simple example, but it's just as important to be doing it right as the big bucks. Thank you.
Do I have any other public comment? With that, I'm going.
I wanted to say one thing. I'm going to address the president and I'll come to you to say
No one said Sandy Stevens, 1814 Minnesota Avenue. I want to tell everybody here and the board, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. All the years that I've been on that Beautification Committee, and it's a long time, believe me. I started working as a member. The committee chairman retired. I was requested by Margot Cushman to take over that chairmanship, which I was happy to do, and the board at that time voted me in. I worked very hard for the park, and I still do, because I love this park. Not because I'm making money on this park, it's because I love this park. My thought on all this is, I fought the club, and they all can tell you, for about 2 years, because this happened 2 years ago too. And I said, we gotta stay with the board. And at that time, we did. Then over the years, I seen stuff, happening. When we took the step to become a club, we took it to protect not only all these board members, but ourselves. Because we were at a time when things were going on in the park that we were trying to get involved in and trying to help the other people. And that didn't work out, that's fine, but that came to our attention that they thought that we broke the sunshine law. A few people did. Came to the meeting and told us that. And we had the lawyer there, and we had, God bless him, Mike Sansoni there. And it was explained to us all about the sunshine law again, and blah, blah, blah. And after that meeting, people got scared. And I don't blame them. Because there's still enemies in this park. And they can turn on you and us. So, I think what we did was best for the park. No lawsuits, no nothing. So that's why we became a club. And I hope this settles really fast, because you're gonna lose a lot of great workers. And can I have one more minute about bingo? Bingo has been run by me for 4 years now, for the Mothers Helping Mothers. Settle that, please. Settle it, please. And then settle the thing about the club. Please, as fast as you can. Not 10,000, what do you call them, workshops. Thank you.
Any other comments? Public comments? With that, I'm going to adjourn today's meeting at, what is it? I can't see. 12:39.